What's going on, everybody? Chapter 4 in the Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway series. Chapter 4. Whether you want it or not, it's yours. Are you a victim? Or are you taking responsibility for your life? So many of us think we are taking responsibility for our own lives when we simply are not. The victim mentality is very subtle and takes many forms. Once you understand the concepts in this chapter, you will better understand the dynamics of handling fear. The idea of taking responsibility for your own life is probably not totally new to you. For years, you have been bombarded with the message, take responsibility for your own life. But I am convinced that most of us do not really understand what that means. The most of us independent people, it has meant that we should get a job, earn enough money to support ourselves, and not depend on anyone else for our survival. That may or may not be part of it. Parentheses. I know many dependent people who understand the secret of taking responsibility for their experience of life. Close parentheses. But it certainly doesn't hit the heart of the issue, which is much bigger, yet more invisible than that. Let's look at a few examples. Edward is an extremely wealthy, high-powered executive who lives in a constant state of anxiety. When I suggested that he got some professional help, he responded that if the people in his life would change, everything would be fine. If only his wife would be more loving. If only his boss wasn't always leaning on him. If only his son would stop taking drugs, then he'd be fine. He feels that there is no reason for him to get help. It's all their fault. Is he taking responsibility for his experience of life? Absolutely not. Mara is, objectively, sitting on top of the world. She has a great job, lives in a lovely apartment, and has many friends and lovers. Her continual complaint is about her ex-husband. He is making her life miserable. He has always been unfair to her. He never pays child support. Also, her son is turning against her and accusing her of being selfish, and so on and so on and so on. Is she taking responsibility for her experience of life? Absolutely not. I know many single or divorced people who are constantly complaining about their ex-husband or their ex-wives, their bosses, their loneliness, the lousy single scene, and so on. I know many married people who are constantly lamenting about their children, their lack of money, their lack of communication with their spouses, and so on. Are any of them really taking responsibility for the experience of life? Not at all. They are all in some way playing the role of victim. They have given their power to someone or something else. Keep in mind that when you give away your power, you move further and further to the left side of the pain to power chart. And as a result, you become paralyzed in your attempts to deal with the fear. On a more obvious level, if you are in a job you hate, if you're single and you want to be married, if you're in a lousy relationship and want to get out, if your daughter is making you gray before your time, and if, generally speaking, nothing seems to go the way you want it to go, you are also playing the role of victim. No wonder you feel fearful. Victims are powerless. The truth is that you really are in control, in total control. For some reason, you are consciously or unconsciously choosing to be in that lousy job. You are choosing to hate the single life. You are choosing to stay in a destructive relationship. You are choosing to let your daughter drive you crazy. You are choosing to sabotage everything good in your life. or whatever else it may be for you. I know it is difficult to accept the fact that you are the cause of the feelings that take away your joy in life. It is very upsetting when you begin to see yourself as your own worst enemy. On the other hand, this realization is your biggest blessing. If you know you can create your own misery, it stands to reason that you can also create your own joy. Since taking responsibility for your experience of life is an exclusive concept, or elusive concept rather, I will explain the components of a more powerful way of living. Note that I have been careful not to ask you to believe that you are responsible for all your experiences in life, open parentheses, although there are some who would agree that you are, close parentheses. Rather, I ask you to believe that you are the cause of all your experiences of life, meaning that you are the cause of your reactions to everything that happens to you. There's a lot more about this in the next chapter and in chapter 9. As you read the following 7 definitions of taking responsibility, keep reminding that whenever you are not taking responsibility, you put yourself in a position of pain and hence decrease your ability to manage the fear in your life. Number 1. Taking responsibility means never blaming anyone else for anything you are being, doing, having, or feeling. Never. Well, never, question mark, you say. But this time it really is his fault, or her fault, or the boss's fault, or my son's fault, or the economy's fault, or my mother's fault, or my father's fault, or my friend's fault. Really, it is. If I miss anyone or anything, just add it to the list. Until you fully understand that you and no one else create what goes in your head, you will never be in control of your life. Here are a few scenarios I've heard in my classes and the questions these individuals have to ask themselves before they were able to move to a more powerful place. Madeline: well, it certainly was my husband's fault that the last 25 years of my life has been miserable. Why did you choose to stay? Question mark. Why couldn't you take in any of the nice things he did for you instead of only finding fault? Question mark. Why are you so filled with anger that he finds it impossible to communicate with you? David: well, it certainly was my son's fault that I have gray hair from worrying about him. Why didn't you believe that he would find his own way? Why did you always need to rescue him? Why did you make him so much an extension of yourself that you expected too much from him? Why couldn't you just let him be who he is? Tony: well, it certainly is the fault of the job market that I'm stuck in this lousy job. Why can't you see that others are finding jobs even if the job market is so poor? Why are you not creating more satisfaction in the job you already have? Why aren't you even trying to find a new job? Why are you not asking for what you want in the job that you already have, instead of constantly complaining that nothing is right? Why aren't you committed to doing the best you can do? Alice: well, it certainly is my children's fault that I'm not moving ahead in my career. Why haven't you noticed that others with children are going ahead with their careers and their children are doing fine? Why haven't you taken up your husband's offer to help you with the kids if you want to work? Why haven't you made any effort to gain some skills that would really help you get a job you would love? If you are feeling some pain from identifying with any of the stories above, good. It simply pinpoints an area of which you have to work. The point is to remember that when you blame any outside force for any of your experience of life, you are literally giving away all your power and thus creating pain, paralysis, and depression. 2. Taking responsibility means not blaming yourself. I know this sounds contradictory, but it's not. Anything that takes away your power or your pleasure makes you a victim. Don't make yourself a victim of yourself. For some, this is more difficult than not blaming others. Once you become aware that you have created so much of your unhappiness, you may have a tendency to punish yourself and put yourself down. There I am messing up my life again. I'm hopeless. When will I ever learn? This, again, is not taking responsibility for the experience of life. It is important to understand that you have always done the best you possibly could, given the person you were at any particular time. Now that you are learning a new way of thinking, you can begin to perceive things differently and possibly change many of your actions. There's absolutely no need to be upset with your past, present, or future behavior. It is all simply part of the learning process, the process of moving yourself from pain to power. And it takes time. You must be patient with yourself. There is never any need to be down on yourself. Nothing is your fault. Yes, you cause your unhappiness, but this is no reason to cast blame. You're simply on the path toward greater self-fulfillment, and it is a lengthy process of trial and error. 3. Taking responsibility means being aware of where and when you are not taking responsibility so that you can eventually change. It took years before I realized that the place I played the victim role most often was with the men in my life. I remembered many evenings of complaining for countless hours with my girlfriends about the grief the men in my life were causing me. Those jerks, as I so self-righteously call them, were always doing something to take away my happiness. One was always late, one was incredibly stingy, one didn't make enough money, one learned to play golf too much, one wouldn't get a divorce, and so on. I was able to build up incredible anger and resentment about them. Hours and hours on the phone of, would you believe he actually ... Naturally, my loyal friends shared my drama as they shared their upsets about their men. It was a moan and groan society. We never seemed to tire of each other's stories. No wonder. We fed each other the martyrdom we were obviously enjoying. And we always got to be right. The payoff was that we didn't have to create our own happiness. We could simply blame men for not giving it to us. During this time, I was certain I was taking responsibility for my life. Just like my friend Myra, I was making a wonderful living. I had a great apartment. I was totally independent, but I wasn't taking responsibility for my life. I was still expecting the men in my life to make me happy. I finally learned there is really only one person in the world who can make me happy, and that is me. Ironically, only through this realization was I able for the first time to have a wonderfully nurturing relationship. Now I know that when I am angry at my husband, I simply have to ask myself, what am I not doing in my life that I could be doing that I am blaming him for not doing for me? Read that once again. What am I not doing in my life that I could be doing that I am blaming him for not doing? I am now quickly able to tune into what it is. Either I am being obsessive about money, or I'm feeling insecure, or I'm not creating enough activity for myself, or I'm expecting him to make all better something I'm not handling, or whatever. Once I realize what I am doing, I can get into the task of correcting it. As I correct what needs to be handled in my life, all my anger towards others disappear. My daughter, Leslie, recently commented on how fantastic my marriage is. Yes, I said, it's amazing how perfect Mark becomes when I stop expecting him to handle my life. This is not to say that you aren't entitled to have your basic needs met by your partner. The need to be supported in your growth, the need to be nurtured at times, the need to know there is caring on your spouse's part. But when you are not handling your life, no amount of caring and nurturing is enough. You become a bottomless pit. The man in your life could stand on his head for you, as some of the men in my life tried to do, but it is never enough. I might add that if someone is not supplying your basic needs to be nurtured and loved, certainly you would serve yourself by leaving. But first, you must ask yourself, is it that he or she is so terrible? Or is it simply that I am not taking responsibility for my experience of life? If you are satisfied that you simply do not choose to spend your life with this person, then it is also taking responsibility to move on with the intention of finding a more compatible partner. One clue that you are truly taking responsibility is when you feel little or no anger towards this person. You realize that you choose, or that you chose to be there in the past, and you are now choosing to leave. Nothing is the other's fault. He or she is doing the best he or she can, given his or her level of personal growth. Anger is your clue that you are not taking responsibility. Relationship with another is only one area where you can give away your power. It is important to look at all other areas of your life as well. To determine where you are not taking responsibility, your clue will be any one of the following signs: anger, upset, blaming others, pain, lack of focus, self-pity, envy, helplessness, constant state of limbo, impatience, joylessness, fatigue, attempting to control others, excessiveness, addictions, judgmentalness, disappointment, and jealousy. This is not a complete list, but you get the idea. Whenever you feel any of these, determine what you are not doing in your life that is causing the telltale sign. You will be surprised how easy it is to locate where you are abdicating responsibility. 4. Taking responsibility means handling the chatterbox. This is the little voice inside, the voice that tries to drive you crazy and often succeeds. I'll bet some of you don't even know it's there. I was shocked when I became aware of it, but I promise you it holds the key to all your fears. It's the voice that heralds doom, lack, and losing. We're so used to its presence, we often don't even notice it is talking to us. If you are not aware of your chatterbox, it sounds something like this. If I call him, maybe he'll think I'm too pushy. But maybe if I don't call him, he'll think I'm not interested. But if I call him and his message machine is on, I'll wonder where he is, and it will ruin my whole evening because I'll know he is out with another woman. But if I don't call, I'll wonder anyway. Maybe I shouldn't go out tonight. He might call, and then he'll think I'm out with someone else, and he'll think I don't care. But if I call, he'll really know I'm interested, and he'll probably start backing away from me. I wonder why he hasn't called. Maybe it was too cool this afternoon. Maybe I was too cool this afternoon when I bumped into him at lunch. Maybe I should have been warmer. I wish I had been wearing something more attractive. I looked so fat in this outfit, and my makeup was terrible. He seemed a little cool. I wonder if it is because he heard I went out with Alan the other night. Well, I don't think he should expect me to sit home every night and wait for him to call. He has a lot of nerve if he expects that the next time I see him, I'll ask him why he hasn't called. We were supposed to go out to the movies this week, and he didn't even remember. I'm going to confront him over this lack of responsibility. I won't be judgmental, but I'll certainly let him know how I feel. Or this: I'm really angry at my boss for not including me in the meeting this morning. He really doesn't appreciate all the work I do for him. The others spend their day loafing and they get invited to the meeting. Maybe I'll try loafing and see if he likes that better. It really doesn't pay to give you all that. It really doesn't pay to give your all to a job. You never get rewarded for all the hard work. It just pays to be the big manipulator, like all the rest. An honest hard worker is just not appreciated anymore. I'll show him. I'll look around for another job, but the job market is so lousy right now. I never find another. I wish I had completed my master's degree. Then I'd have a better chance. I'm really stuck here. No one is hiring people over 40 anyway. It's all in who you know. If my parents had had money, I would have been able to socialize with people who have some clout. I really feel used. I can't believe they excluded me from this meeting. Who does he think he is? This kind of thing always happens to me. No wonder so many of us hate being alone and can't be in a room without turning on the radio or television for company. Anything to escape such insanity. Be assured that this insanity seems to be an unavoidable phase in the growth process. We are all victims of our chatterbox at some point in our lives. Now that you know it exists, you will also notice that you can't seem to turn it off. At least not yet. The good news is that there are very effective ways to get rid of this kind of negativity, which will be discussed in later chapters. For now, simply notice that your chatterbox is making you a victim and commit yourself to replacing it with a loving voice. You don't have to hang out with enemies, even if they are within yourself. By the way, once you get rid of the negativity your chatterbox brings, you will really begin to enjoy being alone. 5. Taking responsibility means being aware of payoffs that keep you stuck. Payoffs explain why we choose to perpetuate what we don't want in our lives. Once you understand payoffs, your behavior will make much more sense to you. Let me give you a few examples. Jean was feeling horribly stuck in her job and wanted desperately to get out. She viewed herself as a victim. Poor Jean. Her chatterbox constantly played the if-only game. If only the job market was a little better, she wouldn't have a problem. If only she had better skills, there would be more opportunity. What was keeping Jean at her job? What were the payoffs? By remaining a victim, Jean had clearly become comfortable. She didn't have to face possible rejection in her search for a new job. Although she hated her job, it was easy. She knew she could handle it. She didn't have to question her competence. She put in her hours and didn't have to expend any additional energy, and the job was relatively secure. Once Jean became aware of all her payoffs, she had at least 3 choices. The first was to stay where she was and continue to be miserable. The second was to stay where she was and choose to enjoy her job. The third was to choose to find a more satisfying job. What did she ultimately do? After recognizing the payoffs for what they were, she was able to break away and find a new job. As long as she was in victim mode, she was stuck. As soon as she realized she was choosing to stay because of the payoffs and not because of her if-onlys, she was able to move. Kevin had been separated from his wife for 5 years. Although he had found someone else he wanted to marry, he was not able to tell his wife and children that he wanted a divorce. When the new woman threatened to leave, he sought professional help. The victim story his chatterbox was telling him was that his wife would kill herself. His children would never talk to him again, and his parents would disown him. Poor Kevin. He really believed all of this on a conscious level and was paralyzed with guilt. With the help of a therapist, it did not take him long to see that the real problem was his own fear of letting go. Though he no longer loved his wife, he unconsciously represented a psychological place to come home to, and he was frightened to sever the tie permanently. That was his payoff for staying stuck. As soon as Kevin was able to see that his own irrational fear was stopping him, he immediately started proceeding to divorce his wife. Naturally, his wife did not kill herself, and his children never stopped talking to him, and his parents didn't disown him. They wondered what had taken him so long. The point is that once he recognized that his payoffs were the reason he was choosing to remain in the marriage, his guilt disappeared and he was able to take action. Tanya. Tanya was always sick, which interfered greatly with many other things she wanted to do in life. She truly saw herself as a poor thing, endowed with an unhealthy body, a full-fledged victim, if you ever saw one. In one of my workshops, I asked the group to list the payoffs of staying stuck in whatever it was that was bothering them. Tanya could find no payoffs for being sick all the time until the group helped her out. They pointed out to her that her illness got her a lot of attention and that it kept her from having to put herself out there in the world and take any risks. She denied it at first, but finally was able to acknowledge that there was some truth in what they were saying. Tanya had never looked at her unhealthiness as manipulation through her unconscious. Tanya had never looked at her unhealthiness as manipulation, though her unconscious knew exactly what it was doing. As a child, illness was the only device that got her any attention. Tanya's awareness of the payoffs was the impetus she needed to turn her life around. Realizing that she was possibly creating her ill health, she made a lot of choices in her life. First, she completely changed her diet and joined the health club. As important, perhaps more so, she asked the significant others in her life to help her by rewarding her only when she was well and ignoring her when she was sick. They obliged after a little practice. She began creating work goals for herself and pushing herself to meet them. Even when she was sick, she began doing many of the positive exercises in this book, such as using affirmations and inspirational audios. When she fully realized her payoffs for being ill, Tanya was able to choose. Did she want to get attention for being sick all her life? Or did she want to find a more satisfying way of relating to the people and to her life goals? Did she always want to be an observer of life rather than a participant? She chose the latter, and sickness is no longer an issue in her life. From these case studies, you can see the power that hidden payoffs can have in your lives. They are not difficult to discover once you realize they exist. It's simply a matter of sitting down with a pencil and paper and listing them. Sometimes they are obvious to others, but masked from your own vision. If you can't find them, ask a friend to help you. You might be surprised to discover that your friends know more about your motives than you do. 6. Taking responsibility means figuring out what you want in life and acting on it. Set your goals, then go out and work toward them. Figure out what kind of space you would like to live in, then create it. It doesn't take a lot of money to create a peaceful, loving home for yourself. Look around and see who you would love to include in your circle of friends. Then pick up the phone and make plans to get together. Don't sit around waiting for them to call you. Check out your body. Determine what you need to do to create what looks and feels healthy. Then make it happen. Most of us do not sculpt our lives. We accept what comes our way. Then we gripe about it. Many of us spend our lives waiting for the perfect mate, waiting for the perfect job, waiting for the perfect friends to come along. There is no need to wait for anyone to give you anything in your life. You have the power to create what you need. Given commitment, clear goals, and action, it's just a matter of time. 7. Taking responsibility means being aware of the multitude of choices you have in any given situation. One of my students put it this way: from the time my alarm clock rings, I have an hour and a half alone, and I realize it's all up to me what the day is going to start like. It's up to me whether I'm going to open the shades and let the light in or mess around in the dark. It's my choice to lie in bed and say, yuck, I don't want to get up and go to work. I didn't finish the report I'm supposed to have ready today. Or it's my choice to lie in bed and give myself positive self-talk and look forward to the coming day. It's my choice to put the music on, dance around the apartment instead of putting on the negativity of the news or listening to my negative chatterbox. It's up to me whether I'm going to worry about how my body is not in shape or whether I'm going to tell myself I'm in the process of creating a great body. The whole day is up to me. As you go through each day, it is important to realize that at every moment you are choosing the way you feel. When a difficult situation comes into your life, it is possible to tune into your mind and say, okay, choose. Are you going to make yourself miserable or content? Are you going to visualize scarcity or abundance? Are you going to put yourself down for getting angry with your husband, or are you simply going to notice the insecurity you were feeling at the time and discuss it with him? The choice is definitely yours. Pick the one that contributes most to your aliveness. Pick the one that contributes most to your aliveness and growth. Here are some other kinds of choices. Your friends decide not to go with you on the trip you had planned together. You're really angry, or you understand she has her reasons and you find someone else to share the trip or go along and have a ball. Your husband is an alcoholic. You spend your whole life trying to change him or scold him. Or you attend Alcohol Anonymous meetings and learn to change yourself. Your flu has caused you to miss the big meeting you were scheduled to attend. You are sure this means the end of your whole career. Or you realize you have limitless ways of creating a successful career for yourself. Your visit to sunny California is filled with torrents of rain. You lament your bad luck for the entire trip. Or you find ways to make it a great vacation anyway. By now, you can really see that the choice is yours. As you continue to read, you will further your ability to place yourself on the upside of any given situation. Keep in mind that this way of thinking doesn't excuse inappropriate behavior on the part of others in your life. It simply allows you to have a more satisfying life. Fully taking responsibility for your experience of life is a long process that requires much practice. I'm still working on it daily after many years, and each day my life gets better and better and better. The point is simply to begin. You will start to feel better immediately. The following 6 exercises will help you feel noticeably more powerful in the face of your fears. Number 1. List all the payoffs you get from staying stuck in some aspect of your life. What don't you have to face? What don't you have to do? What comfort do you get? What image do you get to hold on to? Be honest with yourself as you possibly can. Be as honest with yourself as you possibly can. When you are aware of what you are doing, you will automatically discard a lot of your robot-like behavior. You will lead yourself instead of being led. Number 2, be aware of all the options you have during the course of a given day. When you are confronted with a difficult situation, sit down and write in a notebook all the possible ways you can act and feel about it. Close your eyes and picture yourself happy about it, then sad about it, then outrageous, then humorous, then heavy, then light, and so on. You will begin to see how easy it is to change your point of view, hence your feelings. You are in control. Each time you are upset, be conscious of the alternatives available to you. Again, make it a game. In no way should you put yourself down for being upset. It's a great clue as to where you need to begin taking responsibility. Number 3, start noticing what you say in conversations with friends. See if it includes a lot of complaining about other people, such as, would you believe that Jill was late for dinner again? We had the biggest fight right in a restaurant. If this sounds familiar, see if you can turn the situation around so that you can learn something new about yourself. For example, I noticed that when Jill is late, I begin to feel really angry. I wonder why I feel that way. I think it's because she doesn't seem to have any respect for my time. On the other hand, part of me likes it. It makes me feel superior to always have something to gripe about. Number 4, in a notebook, list the many choices available to you that you can change presently in the notebook, list the many choices available to you that can change presently upsetting experiences into positive ones. Using the example of Jill's lateness, what choices could you make? You could stop meeting with her, arrive later, knowing she will be late, bring some interesting reading material, relax. If meeting on time is essential, you could simply tell her that if she is not there by an agreed upon hour, you will not wait. There is no reason for anger. The key is not to blame others for your being upset. This is not to condone the behavior of others, but simply not to allow it to be the source of your upset. In every situation, there are at least 30 ways to change your point of view. Make this another game. The change your point of view game. Play it with a friend. Having a growth buddy is very nourishing. Number 5, begin to look at the gifts you have received from what you have always looked at as a bad situation. For example, if you are still hurting from your divorce, begin to focus on the good things you have had during the marriage and the good things that have come about as a result of the divorce, such as new friends, new ways of dealing with money, freedom, less dependency. Number 6, this one is really tough. See if you can go 1 week without criticizing anyone or complaining about anything. You will be surprised how difficult this is. You will also be surprised to learn how much complaining and criticizing you do. By the way, When you ultimately stop putting down other people in your life, it may seem as if you have nothing left to talk about with your friends. Griping is a habit and needs to be replaced by something more positive. This takes a bit of time and ingenuity, but it will be far more satisfying and joyful. 7 ways to reclaim your power. Number 1. Avoid casting blame on an external force for your bad feelings about life. Nothing outside yourself can control your thinking or your actions. Number 2. Avoid blaming yourself for not being in control. You are doing the best you can. You are on the way to reclaiming your power. Number 3. Be aware of when and where you play the victim role. Learn the clues that tell you that you are not being responsible for what you are being, having, doing, or feeling. Number 4. Familiarize yourself with your biggest enemy, your chatterbox. Use the exercises throughout this book to replace it with a loving internal friend. Number 5. Figure out the payoffs that keeps you stuck. Paradoxically, once you find them, you will probably be able to quickly become unstuck. Number 6. Determine what you want in life and act on it. Stop waiting for someone to give it to you. You will be waiting a long time. And number 7. Be aware of the many choices you have in both actions and feelings. In any situation that comes your way, choose the path that contributes to your growth and makes you feel at peace with yourself and others. That was chapter 4. Alright, that's a pretty good chapter. A little bit longer than others, it seemed like. But the main thing for me was the figuring out your payoffs that keep you stuck. Pretty much the stuff that we cling to. Like some people, they cling to, like you said, an example, being sick. Some people cling to being abused. Some people cling to their past. It was big to me because I feel like a lot of us can get caught up in that trap and not know it. Like, we don't know the benefit that we get. It's like, well, why would I want to stay a victim, right? Well, who wants that? But you don't look at the benefit that you would get from it. But once you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, well, having this or being perceived as the victim person or whatever you want to call it, I do get certain privileges, right? Everybody feels bad for me. They pity me. They give me their pity. They do stuff out of pity, right? And you get benefits, but it's not worth it once you realize that. But it was a good chapter, like I said, chapter 4. And that's all I got. Stay tuned for chapter 5. Peace.